Hey guys, welcome back to 428 Shibuya Scramble. It's TJ Gamer Girl signing on. So, last episode, we finished Maria's story, period. So we only have 4 protagonists to go through. We got Minorikawa to be continued. Thank you so much for that tip on that ending. I think it would have gone very poorly had I not. And now Kano is with Kanan to try and get to Maria and Hitomi. They ran from South Hill in Nanpedai towards Shibuya Station. As they darted, they weaved madly through the narrow street sides. Kanan took an occasional glimpse at her PDA. It felt to Kano like they must be taking the shortest possible route to Maria's location. He stayed quiet, keeping pace as Kanan led the way. Before he knew it, they were heading up Dogenzaka. In not too long, they'd be at Endo Electronics. "Hey!" Kano called out to Kanan. "What?" she shouted back without turning. "Are you sure this is the right area? Are you doubting the GPS?" "No, it's not that." Kano scanned the area. "It's just that Endo Electronics is right up ahead." "What?" Kanan stopped abruptly. "What are you suggesting?" "The twins are heading for the same location. That's my guess." Still, what did that actually mean? Kano hadn't figured that out yet. They took off running again, and before long, Endo Electronics came into view. Kanan stopped in front of the shop door. "Right here," she said, glancing at her GPS. "I knew it," Kano thought. Endo Electronics, the same place Hitomi was headed. "Guess we're all winding up together," Kanan said. "Or else we've been brought together." She peered keenly at the building and its surroundings. Kano swallowed hard. "We? You think you've been roped into this too?" "Quite possibly." Kanan flashed a winning smile, then started to head into the shop. "Hold on, I need to report into HQ." Kano hurriedly called Kuze on his cell. "Kano, what's going on?" "I've located Maria Osawa." "Huh? What's that?" Kuze's words came out of surprise and childish yelp. "Come on." Kanan's smile turned into a steely glare. "Time's critical." He nodded silently back at her. "Kano, what's the location?" Kuze asked. "Where are you?" "I can't say right now, sir. Please, just leave this to me." "Hey, now just hold on." But Kano ignored the director squawking and hung up. Not hauled up, hung up. Kanan had already entered the shop. She seemed wholly unconcerned by the idea that she might be playing right into Alfred's hands. Despite her youth, she clearly thought of herself as quite capable. Warily, he followed after her. After navigating a veritable cavern of junk, they came to a door that led to the living area beyond. Kanan quietly opened the door and immediately stepped inside. The home was divided into a dwelling area and a workroom. A man's voice could be heard from the workroom, raised in anger. "Don't you want to save Suzune?" Kano and Kanan crept closer. Peering through the next doorway, they saw a tense confrontation in progress. Maria and Stanley were standing there, looking down at the middle-aged man who had restrained Hitomi with a stun gun pressed to her throat. "Dad, of course I want to help Suzune." The young man stepped into view, speaking to the older fellow. "But do you think this is what she'd want you to do?" Kano watched intently, tensing for action. There was so much at risk here. He was about to barge into the workroom when Kanan grabbed him by the shoulder. "Let's wait and see how this goes first," she whispered. He realized this was good advice. If they provoked the older man, things could very well take a sharp turn for the worse. They just have to hope the young man could talk him down. Alright, so there's a possible keep out for Achi. And because of that, there's a keep out for Kano. Alright, looks like we're doing Achi next. Achi told Stanley and Hitomi what his father had done. As she listened, Hitomi hung her head. Her face was sallow. Sallow? I'm so sorry, Achi told her. I'm not really sure what to say. He clenched his fist so hard that his knuckles popped, struggling to keep his emotions in check. So, if I were rendered brain dead, you could help your sister, Hitomi murmured. Stop! Achi said quickly. Please, don't say things like that. A sad look came to Hitomi's face, and she pressed her right hand to her heart. I mean, to find out like this. She turned to Achi, tears glistening in her eyes. I want to help your sister, but... We have other things to worry about right now. This time it was Stanley who cut her off. Remember, Alphard is after you, Hitomi. Isn't that what Kanan told you? Yes. She said I was the mastermind's target. Hitomi wiped her tears away with her fingertips. So Alphard and Achi's father are after the same thing, Stanley said. Is that just a coincidence? It didn't sound like he thought so. Hold up, Achi growled, leaning in from the back seat. Yeah, my dad's way out of line, but he did what he did for Suzune. He wouldn't work with terrorists. I'm not saying he's deliberately aiding terrorists, Stanley replied coolly. It's common sense that a pro wouldn't get an amateur involved with their plans. That makes it too likely that a clumsy misstep will cause things to fall apart. But then again, that's not the way Alfred thinks. So, actually, the likelihood of failure could well be part of the plan. Achi thought back to what Kanan had said earlier. If you achieve your goals using accidental means, the outline becomes blurred, and it makes it harder for anyone outside, looking in, to grasp what the actual plan is. Not only have they put together a perfect plan, they've purposely left certain tiny holes in it. So, if we assume the plan has failed, this slip-up might be exactly what Alphard wants, Stanley muttered. Sort of an intentional hole, then, Achi said. Stanley snorted. Kanan told you guys about that too, huh? If that's the case, then you really are a fool. What'd you just call me? Achi barked. If you've known all along how formidable the opponent is, you should have given Hitomi over to police custody right away. It's only a matter of dumb luck that either of you are still alive right now. Look, luck or not, me and Hitomi have managed to get by safely. That's all that matters. What exactly is the relationship between you two, anyway? You guys dating? Achi and Hitomi exchanged glasses. When Hitomi hesitated uneasily, Achi decided he better speak up. No, it's not like that. We just happened to run into each other earlier today. Guess I'm not the kind of guy who can abandon someone in trouble. Can't abandon someone in trouble, huh? You sure you're not just trying to make yourself feel self-important? There are plenty of people out there that you can't see who are also in trouble, who are also suffering. If you only help the ones close at hand, then what's the point, really? The world's a lot bigger than you can imagine. And there's a lot you're blind to. So what? If I see someone who's in trouble, I'm supposed to just ignore them? Nah, can't do that. If I see someone who's collapsed from hunger, I'm not just gonna walk on by because there are people starving somewhere else in the world. I'd be all, hey, let me treat you to a beef bowl or whatever. You couldn't have come up with a smarter example? Stanley replied with a tiny laugh. Okay, so I'm an idiot, Achi scowled. My bad. Stanley laughed again. Today's been an interesting day, he said. I was with another fellow earlier who was just like you. Meaning what? Was he an idiot too? Yeah, he was an idiot. Do all you Japanese have that problem? Hardly. My little sister's so smart she'd make your eyes pop out. Well, I'm sure relieved to hear that. If everyone in this country were as dumb as you guys, I might actually start to like this place. Huh? What does that even mean? Talk so I can understand, man! Achi shot back, but Stanley didn't respond. Instead, he stuck his head out of the car window, peering at the road ahead. They were close to Shibuya Station now, and the traffic had ground to a halt. Gridlock again? Stanley grumbled. It's probably better to walk the rest of the way to Endo Electronics. He pulled over on the side of the road. Archie got out of the car, feeling his guts knot up with worry. Pretty soon, he was going to have to confront his father. Stanley gave Archie a look. You scared about meeting with your father? I'm not scared. First things first, I'm gonna punch him right in the face. Then we can have ourselves a chat. Don't let your emotions get out of control. Your father might be one of those key players in this case. I don't give a damn about that. Archie took Hitomi by the hand and started walking. They'd gone up and down Dogenzaka so many times already, but this was probably the last time he and Hitomi would make their way up the hill together. Let's be honest. You love Hitomi. Archie walked at an easy pace, wanting to delay the end of their time together just a little longer. Once they reached his home, this kidnapping case would be all over, because his own father, Daisuke, would be arrested as the culprit. Bringing Daisuke down would be easy. Archie wasn't worried about that part at all. If he didn't hold back, there was a good chance he'd wind up hurting his father. Holding back. Getting hurt. A memory from long ago rose in Archie's mind. A pure white karate, thrusting out with his left fist, Daisuke collapsing to the floor. One of many memories of his father that Archie could not forget. Kneeling before the memorial altar of his mother, Kotone, Archie wept uncontrollably. He clutched his ohajiki tightly in his hands, a toy made of small coin-shaped glass beads, somewhat similar to marbles. The typical game involves flicking one pieces to the opponents with the fingertip. Specific rules vary greatly by region. I just kicked the chair. Archie had always been rather cleany with his mother. When she was alive, she had often joined him for ohajiki, origami, and the like. On this particular day, Archie had come home miserable after getting bullied by the neighborhood kids for acting like a wimp. Archie. He turned to see his father holding 2 cups of shaved ice. Come here for a bit. They sat on the stairs together, eating sweet frozen confections. You want to get tougher? Daisuke's words were soft and simple. How about you and me get tougher together? Archie looked up at his father, frowning in confusion. How are we gonna do that? Well, for starters, how about we learn some karate? Karate? Archie's face twisted up unhappily at the idea. He couldn't even imagine himself punching and kicking anyone. It'll be alright, his dad said. I'll go with you, don't you worry. Daisuke flexed one of his scrawny arms. His biceps bulged up to the tiniest bits. Archie was well aware that his father wasn't much of an athlete. There'd been an athletics meeting in his grade school. Even now, the memory of Daisuke tripping clumsily during the parent participation relay was burned into Archie's mind. I guess. I mean, if you're going to be there. And so the two began training together at the local karate dojo. Archie put on his white gi and fastened his obi tightly. As he did so, he felt as if his feelings were being anchored in place as well. Ich, ni, san. Archie's gi sleeves made a whooshing sound as he thrust out his fists in time with the sensei's chant. Even simple kata practice made him feel like he was getting stronger somehow. His dad, having left Suzune in the care of their neighbors, was working up a sweat alongside him. But he was out of shape, and his technique was shaky. He was soon exhausted and went to lean up against the dojo wall. Archie stepped out of the training circle and called out to his father. Dad, are you okay? Yeah, I'll just gotta take a little break. Daisuke sounded like he was on the edge of hyperventilating. Thanks, Dad. Huh? What for? For asking me to come take karate lessons with you. Achi was sure he'd never have dared to go to the dojo alone. Hey, just as long as you're liking it. Now go on, get back to training. With a deep bow, Achi resumed his kata practice. As they were walking home from the dojo, Achi turned to his father. How come you want to get stronger, Dad? He asked. I mean, you're not getting bullied by your friends. Daisuke was quiet for a few moments before answering. His words came out awkward and embarrassed. I was picked on a lot when I was your age too, Achi. I had a friend who would always come and bail me out. A friend? Yeah, a friend. A distant look came to his father's eyes. He was a real fighter. I always looked up to him. I wanted to be strong like him. His expression turned lonely. I don't get to see him anymore, though. Why not? Achi asked. Did he die? No, nothing like that. Then, did you guys have a fight? Something like that. Daisuke smiled sadly. He stared out into the sky for a while before speaking up again. His name's Tatano. My friend. That's his name. Achi's father increased his pace. Come on, he said. We have to go and pick up Suzune. After that, despite Achi's questions, Daisuke would say no more about his old friend. By the time he was almost done with grade school, Achi had grown up fit and strong, almost unrecognizable from his younger self. Perhaps he'd had the physical knack in him all along. He was chosen as the representative for the boys' karate team, even managing to take second place in a national tournament. Nobody bullied Achi anymore. One time, Daisuke suggested that the two of them do some sparring. Achi may have been a national competitor, sure, but he was still a grade schooler scoring off against an adult. His father had been training for close to 2 years now as well, and his confidence had grown accordingly. Achi was excited to be able to face off against his old man. Early on in their karate training, Achi's kumite had seemed rather hopeless. He'd been shocked that his out-of-shape father was able to overpower him, but also pleased to get a sense of how strong the man was. This time, Achi thought, he may as well lose again, but he was going to go all out. As they adopted their fighting stances, Daisuke's face was full of confidence. The instructor gave the signal to begin, and Achi opened with a sharp low kick. Daisuke didn't guard against it. The blow caught him in the thigh. It looked to Achi like he'd allowed himself to take the hit, not fearing the effect of a child's kick. Achi proceeded to unleash several more low kicks to the same spot. Bit by bit, Daisuke's face revealed his discomfort. Finally, he yanked his leg away. That was when Achi realized. His father wasn't letting himself get hit on purpose. He was just unable to keep up with the speed of his son's footwork. If that was the case, Achi felt bad about exploiting his dad's weakness. He decided to leave his leg alone. Instead, he aimed a punch at his father's midsection. He was shocked by the impact as the blow struck home. He hadn't attacked with a great deal of force. He'd just thrown a light midsection punch as a check. But Achi pulled back his fist. Daisuke crumpled to the floor. Daichi. Writhing in pain as he clenched his gut. Achi stared in disbelief at his own hand. That was the last day that Daisuke went to the dojo. Your dad's pathetic. Yeah, he's such a loser. Achi was on his way home from practice, and some older students from the dojo had started ribbing on him. What did you say? These kids were middle schoolers, but Achi wasn't about to back down. He thrust out with a quick punch, stopping it just short of one boy's nose. Go on, say that again. I'll kick your ass. The older boys went pale, then took off and ran. But this small victory did nothing to bolster Achi's spirits. His father had looked so small and lonely, heading away after quitting karate. But Achi didn't think there was anything pathetic about that. Sure, maybe by now he was better at karate than his father, but really, what difference did that make? In growing stronger, he learned something. Using force to win out over someone else didn't mean anything. Strength alone didn't determine a person's worth. Achi loved and respected his father for going to the dojo with him. Beating him in a karate match didn't change the way he felt. Achi resurfaced from his memories to hear Stanley talking on his phone. I see, so that's what's going on. Once we're finished with things in Dogenzaka, I'll bring Hitomi right back to the precinct. Curious, Achi turned to the American. What was that about just now? Stanley's reply was clipped. I know what they're after now. With that, Stanley proceeded to wrap up his phone call. Guess I'm not going to get much out of this guy, Achi thought. By now they could see endo-electronics ahead. Achi was about to hurry inside when Stanley stopped him. I'll go in first. You two wait out here. No way! This is my dad we're talking about! And you don't think it's dangerous to bring Hitomi right to him? Well, alright. We'll wait here for a bit, and once we know it's safe, we'll head on it. You cool with that? I'm cool with that. Stanley stepped inside. Achi fussed about impatiently, staring at the entryway. The palm of his clenched fist was sweating. Never before in his life had he wanted to just deck his old man. Hitomi watched him uneasily. Hitomi. Yeah? I'm sorry. I really don't want you to have to see this. But I think you're about to witness the crowning shame in Endo family history. Achi, don't say that, Hitomi said. She squeezed his hand. He found his other fist unclenching. Please, you have to try to talk to your father. Yeah, I know. Suddenly, there was a loud crash from inside the building. The time for waiting had passed. Let's go. Achi and Hitomi raced inside. Barging into the living quarters without bothering to shed his shoes, he heard his father's voice coming from the workroom. Dad! Achi hurried through the workroom door and saw Stanley holding his father pinned across the desk. Let me go! Please, let me go! Daisuke thrashed both of his legs. Stanley, please, let my father go! I want to talk to him! Stanley snorted dismissively, but did as he was asked. Daisuke stood up, rubbing a sore wrist. Dad, please, you have to tell me. Where's Maria? Maria? What are you talking about? Daisuke wouldn't meet his eyes. Don't play dumb with me. Achi pointed at Hitomi. You know who this is, don't you? Hitomi Osawa, the girl you've been after. Maria is her sister. But Daisuke remained silent. You're gonna pretend you didn't call the hospital? Nothing about maybe being able to get your hands on a heart? I mean, seriously? It's all so simple. Even I can tell what's been going on. You've been watching me and Hitomi through the surveillance cameras. And you were telling that guy with the cane where we were. The blood began to drain from his father's face. Don't you go quiet on me. If I'm wrong, then go ahead. Tell me the truth. Daisuke's arm shot out suddenly, knocking an external hard drive from his desk onto the floor. It was over and done before Stanley could stop him. Stanley hunched down and picked up the shattered drive. I'm guessing there was important data on here. Footage from the cameras, maybe? I have no idea what you're talking about, Daisuke spat. You can't do this to an innocent person, Dad, Achi shouted, grabbing his father by the collar. There was a sound of footsteps from out the shop. Someone was quickly getting closer. Stanley grabbed Hitomi by the hand and pulled her back against the wall. Achi stiffened as he turned his gaze to the door. And there's the keep out. Now we gotta get the jump from Kano. What? Okay. Maria's done, so we can't continue from her. Well, we might as well get started with Osawa. The rain won't let up. The sound is growing louder and louder inside my head. It's a sound of regret, spattering against my heart. My emotions surge like a terrible storm within me. I never wished for this. Never expected my heart to be dragged so far beyond my control. We can't save Maria. Can't save Maria. Can't save Maria. The words stormed through Osawa's mind in a relentless cacophony. He called up images of the bodies from the human testing trials on his computer monitor. He couldn't help but imagine his daughter in the same gruesome state. In just a few more hours, Maria would begin hemorrhaging blood and die just like the people in those pictures had. We can't save Maria. We can't save Maria. We can't save Maria. He couldn't shake the words or the reality from his mind. Damn it! Damn it! Damn it! Osawa began pounding his fist fiercely on the desktop. Sir, what are you doing? Kajiwara tried to intervene but he kept pounding away. When he finally ceased, the pain in his repeated impacts lingered in his hands. My research was never about any sincere desire to help people. And now I'm paying the price for that. The one time it finally matters, I can't even save my own daughter. Mr. Osawa, Kajiwara set a hand on his shoulder. You can always blame yourself later, but for now, think again, good and hard. Is there really no other way to save Maria? Nothing else we could try? Osawa shook his head. The only means we have left is using Tanaka's password to unlock the doors. And now Tanaka is dead. There's no other way. It's possible that Mr. Tanaka told someone else his password. This was something Osawa hadn't considered. Was there anyone Tanaka might have shared his password with? Only one person came to mind. Well, yes, there may be someone. You're referring to I, sir. Kajiwara cast his eyes down. You figured that out then? Yes. Back during the commotion over that listening device. A necktie clip isn't typically the sort of present one gives to one's husband's co-workers. And yet, although some might consider it somewhat inappropriate, Mr. Tanaka was wearing it as if it were a matter of course, which implies something about their relationship. Kajiwara's voice trailed off. He coughed apologetically and tried again. I realize it's an awkward situation, sir, but please check with your wife. Even if I doesn't happen to know the password. That does us no good if Maria gets quarantined someplace we can't reach her. I understand, Mr. Osawa. I'll bring Maria to you then. I'll do everything in my power to make that happen. The detective produced a bunch of bananas from his pocket. Where? What? Hey, do you have Mary Poppins pockets or something? These are all left over. You're more than welcome to them, sir. Despite his gentle smile, the rest of his face was firm with resolve. You said you didn't care whether other people understood you, didn't you, Mr. Osawa? Osawa nodded guardedly. At the risk of being presumptuous, sir, I understand you, Kajiwara said. I used to be quite the workaholic myself. You're just like me, innocent and awkward. On another occasion, Kajiwara was shocked to run into a man who looked just like him. The fellow was a stylist at a hair salon Kajiwara visits on occasion. He let out a gasp of surprise of his own upon seeing the detective. Kajiwara felt a peculiar connection and was expecting to go to the salon regularly, but when the stylist asked him what he did for a living, and Kajiwara answered honestly that he was a detective, the other man's face went pale, and he bolted out of the building. Kajiwara never saw the man again after that. Calling yourself innocent, huh? I'm honest of you. Osawa let out a sardonic chuckle. Even after a moment, Kajiwara joined in. The next time I see you, Mr. Osawa, I'll have Mario with me. The detective gave a slight bow, then left the study, a look of determination on his face. Osawa watched him go with admiration. No matter what trouble arose, the man always looked for something he could do. He really was a fellow who knew how to hang tough. Compared to that, Also, I couldn't even articulate his own self-disgust. And asking Naya about the password would also mean inquiring into her relationship with Tanaka. The prospect was daunting. Venturing into the emotional territory of another person was his weakest suit. He left his study, but somehow found himself making his way to Maria's room, not Ai's. He realized that he hadn't been into his daughter's room since a certain rainy day years before. Now he stepped quietly inside and saw Maria's world laid out before him. A small photo was set atop her neat and tidy desk. It was a close-up of someone's hands doing a cat's cradle. Whose hands were they? From the skin tone, they didn't appear to be Maria's. Several more photographs were pinned to a corkboard and hung on the wall. They were snapshots of people and townscapes from the Middle East. One glanced at them, and also felt like he was back there for a moment. The images weren't necessarily aesthetically pleasing, but they all looked like they'd been taken by a professional. When he spun at the last photo on the corkboard, however, he was certain that Maria had taken them all. The last picture was of Osawa himself. He was facing the camera, holding some luggage and flashing an awkward smile. It was a comical, affectionate image. He'd never known that photography was one of his daughter's hobbies. And no, this went beyond a mere hobby. Did she perhaps aspire to be a professional photographer one day? She certainly had the aptitude for it from the look of things. Maria, a photographer. As he mulled the idea over, Osawa felt his chest tighten. Right now, it looked like Maria's hopes and dreams were about to be snuffed out. Her future consisted of bleeding to death a few short hours from now. Osawa started vacantly looking out the window. The view from Maria's room remained unchanged from so long ago. Again, that rainy day crept back into his mind, as vivid as the present. On that day, Osawa was dealing with some pressing business from work. He'd ensconced himself in his study, wrestling with some paperwork, when Hitomi barged in looking distraught. Maria's gone! Sensing that Hitomi was legitimately alarmed, Osawa hurried to Maria's room. He found a letter she'd left atop her writing desk. Dad, you only care about Hitomi. You're always working and never do anything with me, so I'm running away. A few hours earlier, he'd cancelled their weekend trip to the amusement park. He just wasn't going to be able to get his work done in time. Hitomi had resigned herself readily enough, but Maria just couldn't accept it. She'd been looking forward to it for so long, she railed at him. How many times now had he broken one of his promises to her? Hitomi understands why we can't go, so why can't you do the same? The cold rebuke had ended her complaining. But it was clear that she still didn't accept the situation. Now Hitomi helped them look around, but they found nothing missing from Maria's room. Despite her assertion that she was running away then, it seemed like there was no point in being overly concerned. Maybe she's always at the park she always goes to? Hitomi looked worried. The park was roughly a 25-minute walk from the house. It would only take about an hour for Osawa to go get her and bring her home. But an hour was more than he could afford to spare right now. Dad, I think she's waiting for you to go after her. Osawa didn't need Hitomi to tell him that. He knew it well enough. That was what galled him so much about the situation. Why did you have to pull something like this precisely when his work was at his busiest? He'd done everything he could as a father since his wife had passed away. Why couldn't his daughter see that? It's alright. His sister would come back. The rain was coming down pretty hard outside the window. Do you think she brought an umbrella? Hitomi asked anxiously. I don't know, but with rain like this, she'll come home soon enough. He spoke the words for himself as much as for Hitomi. Then he headed back to his study and got back to work. Several hours went by, and still Maria did not return. The rain had gotten even more intense, to the point where Osawa could hear it in the study. He was so concerned about his missing girl that he couldn't focus on his work, but he stubbornly refused to give in and go search for her. Several more hours passed. At last, Maria appeared at the front door, soaking wet. Osawa met her silently in the entryway. Wet strands of hair clung to the girl's forehead. She looked up at her father with a bitter glare. You don't care what happens to me, do you? Immediately, Osawa smacked her across the cheek with the flat of his hand. It was the first time in his life he'd ever struck anyone. He hadn't known such a violent impulse could exist inside him. Maria stood there, her hand pressed to her cheek. Tears welled up in her eyes. She began to tremble. On her lips was a small bead of blood. A flood of guilt and regret rose up inside Osawa, as if he just shattered some intricate piece of glasswork. How could I do such a thing? He clenched his shameful hand into a fist. And in that moment, he was afraid of Maria. Afraid that his daughter could bring such raw emotion out of him, and he became do something so thoughtless. But even more, he was afraid of how stunted he was as a human being. Was someone like him really fit to be a parent? What kind of future could Maria and Hitomi hope for with a father like him? That was why he'd married Ai as Makino had proposed. Having a mother, he decided, would help keep his family together despite their sad excuse for a father. But in doing so, Osawa had dug a psychological ditch between himself and his daughters. A deep ditch, so that he could keep his daughters from being hurt. So that he wouldn't hurt himself. Now Osawa was staring across that ditch, wondering if it was too wide to leap. He thought back to his earlier exchange with Kajiwara. If you get angry and you show it. If you get angry, you show it. If you get sad, you show it. It's human nature to let other people know how we're feeling, after all. But what if doing that hurts the other person? That's when you apologize, sir. Yes, I was right. He needed to apologize to Maria for what he'd done that day. It still wasn't too late. It's never too late. When it comes to family, there's no such thing as game over. He recalled Pretty Honey's words. He needed to apologize to Maria. And so he needed to ask Ai for that password. Also, I was going to have to face his wife. Another keep out! Which means Minorikawa is probably at the center of a lot of these keep outs. Because the keep out that I got with the jump that I got with Kano, it doesn't unlock. Hey. The next episode, we're going to be starting Minorikawa's current block. So, till then, this is the Gamer Girl, signing off.